Hello, booktube. I'm Scott.
I'm Nelle.
We are Gunpowder, Fiction, and Plot, and this is actually not right, this setup.
Not right? Something is not right?
Something is quite wrong.
All our plants are missing.
We took them away to water them and
They're all
they're
in
in
the
the other
bath.
room. Anyway, that is not a Madeline quote. This is a book haul.
Oh, is this a book haul?
How do we get so sidetracked? Like within seconds. We're going to film a book haul. Ooh, shiny. Let's talk about passion fruit.
I love passion fruit.
Yeah,
So
I
do
know.
you.
Now, how many books do you have left to haul for your diversity project?
I have 31 books left to haul for my diversity project. And I just want to announce before we even start so that I don't have to count and that it's over. I have completed my diversity project. Some of these books don't count towards my my diversity project because they are birthday gifts. Because we haven't done a book haul in that long that we haven't hauled my birthday gifts yet.
But you've done the maths and the numbers and you're good.
And the numbers, and we've made it over. I think I've got 35 books to tell you about, plus my birthday gifts.
Wow.
So, are you ready for a book haul?
Yes. So, what are you going to start with? I've got some books too as well. We'll do them at some point.
We'll do them at some point. I'm going to start with, I don't know, this pile in front of me. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think starting with the pile closest to you makes sense.
This is a bit of a mishmash of things I got from different places for different reasons. But this I picked up when we went secondhand book shopping with Kat and Ryan from Biblio Obscura. I don't know if you can see the cover art on that is just delicious.
And there's a video up on Kat and Ryan's channel, not Kat's channel rather.
Yeah.
Which
Talks
special guests us.
Yeah.
Where we talk about these books that we've hauled with them, and it's hilarious. So you should.
We played a little game. It didn't actually feature all of the books we hauled, but it did feature some of them. It didn't feature this one. This one is The Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi, which I know nothing about, but my husband showed me this cover when I was in a secondhand bookshop, and I said, $3, yes, thank you. So,
The Book of Five Rings. You'll find out whether that is a fantasy, a young adult, a literary fiction. You don't know.
I actually suspect it's like a pretty classic Japanese work.
Well, if you've read this book and you know, let us know what genre it is.
And now I'm going to come to some things that I picked up for Aussie April. So I've got Talking Up to the White Woman by Eileen Morton Robinson.
If you don't know, you should lift the cover up again now. Those colours on the cover, the yellow, the red and the black, are the colours of the Aboriginal flag of Australia.
Yeah, and this is about Indigenous women and feminism. So that is one of the things on my radar for Aussie April. And Terra Nullius by Claire G. Coleman, which is... It looks like a dystopian picture set at the second colonisation of Australia. So
Terra Nullius was the law when Captain Cook came here. He had the land declared Terra Nullius, which means empty land, meaning that it wasn't owned.
It's the law by which the Europeans claimed Australia as their territory, which was obviously, completely ignoring the fact that our Indigenous people existed.
And this is the Read Under the Bed book club book for April. So if you'd like to join our book club, this is our April pick.
I'm very excited to read this one. Super excited. This is one that I'm hauling from my husband's collection. We do this pretty regularly. He will buy a book and read it, and then I'll haul it onto my collection and vice versa. We don't normally count it so formally, except when doing projects like my diversity project. I'm making sure that I count everything so that I can't cheat and sneak white authors in. But this is Burnt Sugar from last year's Booker shortlist. And then the hugely recommended from all corners of BookTube, The House in the Cerulean Sea, by TJ Klune. I bit the bullet and bought this one for myself as a bit of a self-birthday present. Because I'd been holding off buying it, and then I found out that the author is a queer author. And I had been, it had been on my list of, the very short list of books that I was holding off on buying until the end of this project. And I got to buy it. So it was good. It's exciting. This stack is my birthday present. This is my husband, my good husband, got me Like Water for Chocolate.
So, what I did for Nelle's birthday present was I went to an online bookshop, and whenever I saw a book that I thought she would like, I bought it for her. I added it to the list.
So, Like Water for Chocolate, it's a nice little hardback edition, super cute.
I'm always curious as to whether Nelle will like magical realism or not. So I've picked like a really gentle magical realism novel, one of the... In fact, I'm going to go so far as to say the only magical realism novel that I have ever enjoyed.
Interesting. White Tears by Hari Kunzru. Anti-racism books are pretty high on my list, on my wish list at the moment, so I'm drawn to it, but I don't think this isn't non-fiction. This is a haunting noir tinged thriller. So not the book that I thought it was at first glance.
Yeah, I can't really remember why I bought this book for you. I think
Maybe you thought it was an anti-racism book too?
I don't know. I think I just clicked on it because the title and the name and all that seemed like something worth checking out, and I can't remember why it stayed on the list of books that I bought for you, to be honest, but because I don't really remember anything that it's about.
So we'll see what that's about. This one has been on my radar for a long time. The Radium Girls by Kate Moore. This was a good pick. I was very excited when I opened this one.
So just to clarify for Nelle's project, if I buy Nelle a gift, or if somebody buys Nelle a gift, because she has no control over that, she doesn't worry about whether it is a diverse book or not.
No,
I don't think that this is diverse. I don't actually know off the top of my head.
You've actually done very well. Like this, of these 5 books that you've bought me, 2 of them are pretty much not diverse, I don't think, but 3 of them are people of colour.
Yeah.
So for a ratio of a gift, I think that's quite good.
Yeah.
But this would be one of those books that I had on my very short list of books I would have bought once this project is over. And now that list doesn't exist because I've gone through it again, and everything is either no longer of interest, or I've heard things about it that make it no longer of interest, or
something to be said about not pulling the trigger straight away on a book you like.
Yeah, I definitely think, especially with new titles and that sort of thing, holding off a bit longer can sometimes just save you $20.
Yeah.
The Vegetarian, which you totally bought. This is one of those. He bought this book because he bought me this book because he wants me to read it, not because
You will like this book.
he believes I will like it, but that's not why he bought it for me.
You will love that book. Everybody should read The Vegetarian. If you like messed up literature, read The Vegetarian.
And then Birdsong by Sebastian Faulks. Is this one of your faves?
I found this a really surprising read when I read it. I really liked it, and I didn't really expect to like it as much. It's a historical fiction based in World War One, historical fiction romance based in World War One. It sounds like the sort of trash that I would hate, and I really loved it. And a lot of people really love Birdsong by Sebastian Faulks. It's a very good novel.
I definitely have discovered that I quite like a bit of historical fiction, so I am interested to see how that goes.
Yeah, and it's not trash. Like I said it was trash, but it's not trash. I thought it sounded trashy, and it's much more than that. Yeah. All right. Now we've got the books that didn't fit on the table. We put them on the floor. So these are, I hauled 6 books when we went to the second-hand bookshop with Kat. Now this is some sort of vampire trash that sounded really funny to me.
It looks really cool. It's called Soulless by Gail Carriger.
Yeah, it's about a lady who is upset that she meets a vampire and accidentally kills them. That's sort of what I gather the synopsis is. And that sounds hilarious to me. And if it tackles it with that sort of whimsy, I like to have a good palate cleanser comedy.
I think that this could be so much fun, and it's a series. So if it's,
I thought for $3, if it's rubbish, I'll DNF it, and if it's good and I laugh at it,
then it's worth it.
Then it's great. Speaking of good trash, then give me the next one too. Double PG Wodehouse. $3 for 2 PG Wodehouse. We've got Money for Nothing, and we've got Blandings Castle. No, we've got Galahad at Blandings, but clearly part of the Blandings Castle series. If you don't read PG Wodehouse, why not?
Maybe they don't know who he is.
Stephen Fry said PG Wodehouse is the most gifted author at putting word after word. But he writes a good sentence. He's also hilarious, but he's a joy to read. He's a good structure of the language and all of that. But essentially, it is a light comedy sort of genre fiction sort of thing. So, but everybody needs a light-hearted read.
Yeah.
I must have been in a real light-hearted mood. 50 Shades of Mr. Darcy, because once I saw this car crash of a novel, I couldn't resist.
I feel like that was the first thing you picked up too.
I couldn't, how can you see 50 Shades of Mr. Darcy, a parody, and I mean, as if it's not obvious that it's a parody. But again, for the $3 it cost me, I'm hoping to get a giggle out of it.
Yeah.
And if it's rubbish, I'll DNF it. But basically, that's a risk I'm happy to take, knowing that I'll probably hate it.
This one is interesting.
I saw this on a bunch of people's channels about when we first started. I actually think I saw this on Sarah's channel, Sadie Reads Again, a channel you should all be subscribed to, by the way.
If you're not, why not?
You would all love her. Not actually knowing who our viewers is, but if you like us, you'll like Sarah. She's brilliant. But I also saw this on a bunch of other channels. It's like a dystopian world where women...
It sounds utopian to me.
Where women have electric powers and
they
can zap people.
And you're dead. So they take over the world.
And this last one is called Beyond the Grave by Pierre Magnan. And the reason I bought this novel is because we were in the shop at closing time. I had to pick between buying this novel or putting it back sight unseen.
So you kept it.
So I kept it. I still haven't analysed
what it is
or anything like that. So
you picked it up and you'd not yet decided whether to put it down or not.
Exactly. I literally didn't even know who the author was. I was just browsing and it was go time. So I decided not to miss out on an awesome book and potentially pick up a rubbish book, which is really the theme of this book haul for me.
Yes, this is not a super considered book haul.
This is...
But
no, it is a considered book haul. It is risks I'm happy to take.
I definitely feel like this was like the whimsy and enjoying the $3 price tag.
I think when we hang out with Kat and Ryan, it's a couple of jokes and I tend to be a bit laughy.
Yeah,
and I think I may have leaned towards the comedy rather than slit your wrist sad novels. But
it's not a terrible thing. Whoop.
That was a terrible thing.
Is audiobooks I've already read. And there's 4 of those that I haven't counted yet. Come Tumbling Down by Seanan Maguire. Pet by Akwaeke Amaze. Ring Shout by P. Jelly Clark. And When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain by Nevo. So I've talked about all of those because I've read them already in other videos. So I won't talk about them again here, but they do add to my total and a part of completing this representation project. This is another one we picked up in the secondhand bookshop. White Teeth by Zadie Smith, which has the most obscure blurb, but I get the impression that it's like a multi-generational saga, and it's the book that...
It's the Zadie Smith book.
It is. It's the Zadie Smith book. So it called to me from across the room and I spent $3 on it. The Boat by Nelle is a collection of short stories about the experience of migrating to Australia on a boat, which is very frowned upon by
all sorts of fascists in the country.
People who run our government, unfortunately.
And people who don't run our government, like the opposition. Yeah, because we live in a fascist democracy where you can pick fascism or fascism.
I mean, yeah. I'm very interested in this. The short story, The Boat, was actually one of the highlighted stories for Aussie April last year, I think. That's from this anthology. So I think a lot of you might have read that one story already, but this is the whole anthology.
People smuggling.
Very interesting. Aravinda Adiga is the author of... Is it called White Tiger?
Yep.
Which won the Booker.
Yep.
And I've read that already, and it's, it's not terrible. This is called Last Man in Tower, and I think when you're in a secondhand bookshop and you see a familiar author that's been a success for you before, sometimes you just buy by the author, not necessarily by the title, and that's what I've done here.
I think you can do worse than buying a Booker Prize winning author who you've previously enjoyed.
Yeah, exactly. This one, I feel that my husband foisted into my hands and I accepted that he was correct. The Japanese Lover by Isabel Allende.
I definitely suggested this one to you in the shop. I read it last year. It's a nice novel.
I sat down and read the blurb in the shop and it definitely seemed like something that I could enjoy. It seems a little bit lighter than a lot of the stuff I read, but that's not a bad thing. I think a bit of variation.
You read Shawning the Twilight?
I listen to. I think the books I audiobook are very light or non-fiction.
Oh, you have a different genre preference for audios versus physicals.
Very different.
It's so interesting.
Yeah. This is another one that I've hauled from Scott's collection into my collection. Mother's Beloved Stories from Laos. This, Scott and Roz from Scully Danding Around the Books, Buddy read this the other month and I was supposed to join in, but I didn't.
Because you're a bad human being.
I'm just, sometimes the pressure is too much. So I get the joy of, because I was in on the Voxer conversation, but I haven't listened to any of your little recorded thoughts. So I get the joy of listening to this and then going back and playing all your thoughts.
You better read it soon because Voxer expires those voice messages after a bit. If you want to read something very curious, read this. The novels, the stories are like sparse and not that good, but what they had to write to get it past censorship and how they were critiquing the government with that censorship is super interesting. The actual stories themselves, just
I definitely
great,
think the what censorship does to authorship is interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting, not because of the actual content, but because of the process that made the content.
Yeah. Again, hauling from his collection to mine, The Shadow King. There's quite a few of the 2020 Booker Prize shortlist, long list.
There's only 2. Oh, there's a third one more from the long list coming.
Yeah, on our shelves in general. I think that that might be a certain Booker boy's fault.
I think people talk about them, but yes.
Don't Touch My Hair by Emma Dabiri. When I was looking for books by people of colour, I tried to sort of listen to channels that were people of colour, and this book came up repeatedly when I was searching recommendations by people of colour of authors of colour. So that's why I got that one.
We have a buddy read of that soon with a book fiend named Mel.
Ooh.
That's actually her channel name. I'm not just insulting her and calling her a fiend.
I mean, I don't know that a book fiend is an insult either.
No, it's not, is it?
No. This Mournable Body by Tsitsi Dangaremba.
Oh, there's. I didn't count this one.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
I want to know. I have avoided reading this book because it's the third book in a trilogy.
Apparently it stands alone on its own 2 feet. Apparently knowing that it's the third book in a trilogy is helpful.
So I want to know if you've read it before, knowing that it is the third book in a trilogy. Would that make a difference? And I know I keep remembering Barb's review of this, which was something along the lines of reading it as the equivalent of having your eyeballs run over a cheese grater. So highly recommended by Barb at the font.
Awesome. I'm glad that I've held it then.
Yeah.
That image clearly didn't stick in my head because
Because you wouldn't have bought it if you hadn't remembered that, would you?
Because I'm not preferring a cheese grater.
Kieran really liked this book as well.
See?
So for every negative opinion on BookTube, there's a positive opinion.
There is. And sometimes it's those conflicts that make me want to buy it too. Like, who's right?
Speaking of...
Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid. This, I feel like, is the most contentious. Everyone either loves it or fucking hates it.
It's this vague thing, millennial fiction, which I don't understand. Millennial fiction. Surely somebody like a millennial wrote it. Yeah.
I legitimately don't think I've seen anyone who's not a boomer use that expression. Like
Kieran used it. He's younger than
Kieran.
But I don't understand what millennial fiction is. I don't understand what it's meant to be. Like,
it certainly seems to be, like, every time I hear it, it sounds like it's a disparaging term.
Yeah.
Like,
I know Sally Rooney is also millennial fiction.
And again, a divisive sort of author.
Yeah, I think they're like this sort of literary fiction author that is not quite literary fiction enough for some people, maybe. But I really liked that book, Such a Fun Age, and a lot of people don't, but a lot of people do.
I feel like I'm expecting the lighter end of literary fiction when I see Reese's book club sticker and that sort of thing. But this was on the long list too, wasn't it?
It was long listed for the Booker, yeah.
Yeah, so many.
I mean, It depends why you read literary fiction. If you want the super hard literature and the puzzle,
Sometimes.
then this is not your book. If you just want a book that makes you empathise with characters and talks about issues, then this is a great book.
Yep. I think that I'm not your literature fiction gatekeeping snobby person, so whether it falls squarely into literary fiction or not is not going to impact whether I enjoy it or not.
I actually really like it when it skews into, like, not skews, but
When
like it's on the cusp of literary fiction.
I like it when it's on the cusp of literary fiction, but the other foot is like squarely in fantasy or science fiction. That's personally my sweet spot.
I don't really care what the other genre is, but that is my half genre, half literary fiction. That is what I like.
Yeah. All right. What else we got? Because I know there's more. We don't want this to be an hour and a half long.
Well,
then we should do them more regularly. Oh. Ooh. Is this it?
and then you've got your ones that are still
My
coming.
ones that are still coming. Okay, I Am Malala. Is the story of Malala. Does everyone know who Malala is?
The tough bitch that takes no shit from the Taliban.
That's the spirit. She's an advocate for education and a fucking legend. And her autobiography was in the cheap shop for $3. $3.
Sounds awesome.
So I'm into that. And then another pick for Aussie April. What is this?
It's a bad bookmark.
It's an ugly bookmark. Muller Binby. Yeah, it's weird.
It's oh look, the dummies.
The Dummies series.
Yeah.
Melissa Lashenko is an Indigenous author, and Muller Binby is highly recommended. Highly, it's got an excellent reputation, and I haven't read it, even though it's been out since 2013. So I got that for Aussie April. I picked this up. We were actually in a secondhand bookshop today looking for a specific title, which we could not find in any bookshop. But this caught my eye. Growing up Asian in Australia, and Kat the other day, the weekend when we had Kat and Ryan over there, Kat was talking about growing up African in Australia. Is apparently a collection of essays. I don't think this is an essay collection so much as... I mean, maybe it is. I haven't actually looked at it. I literally bought it because of the similarity in the title, and I suspect that it might be. It is. It's a collection by various Asian authors that grew up in Australia. So to me, that's very interesting.
Yeah. Get to learn about our racism from another point of view.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that that is something that we should learn about. Okay. The Greenhouse by Mario Vargas Llosa. I bought this for the Invisible Cities project. I am not reading the books on the month that they happen. I'm just making sure I hold them. Because once it's on my TBR, it'll get read eventually. Just
as long as you don't die before you get to the end.
Pretty much. I'm not concerned that I'm going to die before I get to the end of my TBR yet. So it'll get read eventually. The Greenhouse is set in a brothel in the outskirts of Peru. So this was my Peru pick.
Oh. I don't know why a brothel in Peru is so much more interesting than a brothel in London or New York.
I actually think that sex work is quite an interesting topic that is so taboo, and so when we're not talking about books that make, I don't know, that, what's the word I'm looking for?
I have no idea.
I'm not talking about books that are just about sex and, and fucking, and it's all salacious and, almost, making it seem like the grand life of being an escort. I'm not really interested in that, but I am interested in the real lives of sex workers because that's not something I know anything about. Like every other thing I read, it's getting into the brains of people I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess sex workers are it's the most murdered profession. And although they're clearly discriminated against really badly.
Highly stigmatized, highly murdered and injured. And
if you're going to be a serial killer, apparently you should murder prostitutes. You get off a bit later.
Yeah, because anyway.
Yeah. But...
And all of it's rooted in misogyny, which I find infuriating but interesting. The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey, I've read.
Every Heart's a Doorway.
No, that's
Cowboys.
Shauna Maguire. Yeah, the Cowboys one. I can't remember what it's called.
Cowboys with Hippos.
She does Cowboys with Hippos. That's not the one I've read. Anyway, I read another book of Sarah Gailey. I thought it was light but interesting, and this appears to be a bit more adult. So I'm interested in this, and that's why I hold it.
Do you know who recommended this really highly?
Oh.
Janae at Coffee and Copyright.
I suspect that's why I got it. How the one-armed sister sweeps her house. Title. Come on.
Excellent title, isn't it?
Such a good title. Cautionary tale about what happens to girls who disobey their mothers. Well, I mean, that's me. I disobey my mother, so... I don't remember what she said, but I do remember Janae talking about this with passion, and I bought it on the spot.
I think the quote was, just buy it, just read it. So
yes. And when I'm looking for authors of colour, and they're recommended by people of colour with such force, I know I'm either in for an excellent perspective that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise, or a wicked book. Either way, I'm very happy. And there's a recommendation on the front from Bernadine Evaristo, so,
pretty good book for Bernadine Evaristo.
That's it. And I guess this is a little bit of a sneak peek, this little section here of a project that I'm doing on the sly.
Well, I mean, it's not so much on the sly now.
I don't know. I might not talk about it. I might just say I didn't choose these books. Yeah. Shut Up You're Pretty is a collection of short stories by Tia Matonji. I don't know much about this. The cover is delicious. The Parcel by Anosh Irani.
This one sounds really fascinating.
So excited to read this. The cover, it is just, even the back.
What's this one about again?
In the swollen and crumbling red light district, brothels again, of Kamathapura at the heart of Bombay, Madhu is given a difficult and potentially lucrative task by her house mother to prepare a newly arrived parcel for its opening. The parcel is a 10-year-old girl from the provinces sold into the sex trade by her aunt.
And the person who's preparing it is trans, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, this just sounds so fascinating.
This was
so much
really
going on.
Interesting about a trans woman in the sex industry who then trains children to be in the sex industry and has like this whole system of justification that they do it more kindly than anyone else would do it, so that's why they continue to do the job despite it being a horrific job. The Parcel. Very looking forward to that.
It sounds like a cheerful book.
Cheerful! Gorgeous.
For people who are paying attention, they might know where this recommendation comes from.
A long way from Douala by Max Loeb. So this is in Cameroon. Something to do with soccer.
And I believe a boy's brother wants to go and play soccer.
Yes, and we follow the boy, not his brother. But... A Lesson Before Dying is about a man who goes to teach in prison, I believe, on death row. So, by Ernest J. Gaines.
And lastly,
Detransition Baby by Tori Peters. This has been making the rounds. Absolutely been making the rounds. I was not aware what this was about. I thought this was going to be about someone's detransitioning journey, but it's not. It's about the baby created after they detransition.
yeah, I think what's interesting, a lot of people have said this title and all of that, but one thing I didn't pick up on straight away was it's not Detransition Baby, it's Detransition, Baby.
Yeah.
And that is interesting.
Yes, it is. Okay, and so to conclude my project, we're going to count a couple of books that haven't actually arrived on my doorstep yet. So I'm going to read you 7 titles that I've got on order. And that means that we'll...
Pardon me.
that means I finish with a 3 spare. 3 to spare. So then I'm done and I can purchase whatever I like. But I guess we'll tackle in another video what that's going to look like for me and what I'm going to do to make sure that my TBR doesn't slide back into bland whiteness. But the books that I have on their way are Daryl by Jackie S., which actually doesn't come out until May, so that's why that's not here yet. Maurice by E.M. Forster. Amateur by Thomas Page McBee, which is about a trans man who is a boxer.
Weird. What an interesting...
Yeah. It's an autobiography. It's a true story, so...
Oh, even weirder.
Yeah. Under the Tripoli Sky, which is another Invisible Cities project book that Sean the Book Maniac, I actually saw. He's reading that as well and having a great time with it, so I'm pleased that I've picked it. The Corpse Washer by Sinan Antoon, again, Invisible Cities project. And the Gurugu Pledge by Juan Thomas Avila Laurel, again, Invisible Cities project. And the last one is My Name is Why by Lem Sissy, which is not Invisible Cities project.
You've got one more. You've got The Night Watch by Sarah Waters too.
And The Night Watch by Sarah Waters.
Which is a buddy read with Key over at Books and Key.
Yes. So that's it. That's all my 8 billion books that I've hauled. And that's the end of my project, which consisted of me buying the next 100 books being from people of colour or queer authors. The next step for that project for me is to do a bit of an unhaul. I want to go through everything I had in my sort of white focused TBR and make sure that I still want to read it. I know that there's a few people coming off my TBR, and we're going to make a video discussing that. And then we'll probably do a stats video and see where the balance, how much of a difference this focus has made to the balance of my TBR. So we'll show you those things later on. But thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.